Welcome, everybody, to another edition of The Hurry Up. I'm your host, Adam. Let's get into this. So, the week two is about to be in the books. Obviously, we have a Monday night game to still kick off to kind of determine uh, and shore up the last few moments of week two. But here are some prominent things that happened. First off, the Buffalo Bills are off to a great start, looking more and more like a Super Bowl contender, annihilating Miami on Thursday night. Had the comeback win against the Cardinals, and boy, we have to talk about them in a minute, but they look like they're in the driver's seat this week. The Cardinals, they beat the Rams. Holy crap. Cardinals, welcome back to the party. Putting the Rams in an 0-2 spot. Who knows what's going to happen now with the Rams? I picked them as a dark horse Super Bowl team, and they did not get by Detroit, obviously, and they did not get by the Cardinals. So they're at 0-2, played some tough games. Cardinals, good for them. They had Marvin Harrison going bananas. Okay, that's why he was number 4 overall. You didn't see it in the first week. He made up for it in a big way in week number 2. So you got that. You have Baker Mayfield fighting for the MVP already. He's already in the talks. Whether or not he gets it, that'll be another story. But to elevate your team in a game where you gave up 5 sacks and you're getting the doors blown off, and somehow you still found a way to beat the Detroit Lions in their building after 5 sacks is a pretty impressive feat to do. And you got to give credit where credit is due to Baker Mayfield and what he's done, the resurrection of his career in Tampa Bay. Remember, that was right off him and a few other first overall quarterbacks are doing well, right? I mean, Baker Mayfield's having a resurrection, and Sam Darnold, is having a resurrection. Who'd have thought that the Sam Darnold-led Vikings would have beaten in their building the team that dismantled the 49ers, just dismantled the Ravens. Well, they didn't dismantle the Ravens, but kept not the Ravens. Excuse me. I forgot who they played. I forgot who they played, but they dismantled their team on that day, going crazy. Pardon me for forgetting who they played in game 1. It's eluding me right now. I just know that they won in convincing fashion, and then come to Minnesota after Minnesota beat the Giants, where you're like, all right, that's fine. They beat the Giants. Who cares? Giants are that good of a team. Minnesota, probably not going to make the playoffs. Well, guess what? Minnesota's pretty good, and they made young quarterbacks' lives hell. They made Daniel Jones' life hell. They laughed at him, and Brock Purdy even said, "Hey, man, your scheme is crazy." And their defense has been playing well. Sam Darnold's been playing well. Who'd have thought Sam Darnold? A lot of people thought Sam Darnold was going to be booty cheeks. Oh, he's going to be ass. So, well, why would I worry about Sam Darnold? Well, guess what? Kevin O'Connell, just like with Baker Mayfield over in, with Tampa and with Sean McVay, sometimes it just takes one guy to fix what you need to be done, and then that guy to believe in you. I told you guys last week previewing the Vikings game that Sam Darnold apparently improved his footwork with Kyle Shanahan. And then he goes to Minnesota, loses a little weight, and Minnesota improves his game a little bit and gives him confidence in what he's reading, what he's looking at. And obviously time. It's not like Sam Darnold didn't get sacked or hit. He got sacked. He's playing a better game right now. If he keeps it up like this, the Vikings are not only going to be in the playoff mix, but he will have a big contract, not necessarily with the Vikings, but somewhere else. Somewhere else, they're going to look and say, hey, listen, we need Sam Darnold here. He has done exactly what Baker Mayfield's done. And it's funny because you look at these guys, and sometimes situation dictates your ineptitude. And what I mean by that is Sam Darnold went from place to place to place. He went to the Jets, not a good coaching situation there. Didn't really they didn't coddle him the way they needed to. They kind of let him sink or swim, baptism by fire, so to speak. He then goes to Carolina, where he has a little success there, but not much. And then he goes, I do believe, to the 49ers, where he's a backup, and you're like, oh, okay, well, and then he goes there and he has a couple games, and you're like, oh, all right, Sam Darnold is what he is. And then he goes and signs a $10 million deal with the Vikings, which you thought, oh, he's going to be the bridge quarterback to whoever they draft or they didn't draft. Remember, they did not think that they were going to draft a quarterback. They got one in case they couldn't get one, right? Because they had a lot of teams up front in front of them before their draft pick that they didn't know if they were going to get a guy to slide to them, and they did. They didn't have to trade up to get one. They got McCarthy. They made a choice, and away they go, so to speak, right? Well, pencil in Sam Darnold. He came in March, so they knew that they had something with him in March over the guys they got. So if they had to roll with just Sam Darnold, this is what it was going to be. They again had a chance to draft a quarterback, so there will probably be no long-term contract for him with them. But look out for other teams across the league. There's a ton of teams that could use a quarterback as competent as him. And how about Gardner Minshew and the Raiders, right? I did not expect that type of win. That was a statement win. I thought the Ravens were going to blow the doors off of the Raiders. And here we are sitting here like, wow, the Raiders are 1-1 and the Ravens are 0-2. Who'd have thought that? Now I think the Ravens can bounce back. You know, they got a ton of. They have the Bengals are 0-2. They have the Ravens are 0-2, and the both Pittsburgh is 2-0, and the Browns are 1-1. Who'd have thought that in that division that Pittsburgh, with the lack of offense, would be number one, and the Bengals and the Ravens with a ton of offense would be 3-4. So that's interesting to see. I think there's still a lot of fight left in those teams. A lot of powder puffs on the schedule that they can come back and rectify their record. I think they will. Bengals never seem to. They had a better performance. They should have won the game against Kansas City due to a penalty, which was a penalty. You can't knock it. It wasn't a ticky tack. It was an actual guy got there too close. A little bit of a rookie mistake. He'll learn, but those are the big time things that can cost you playoffs and victories down the road. Because if you go down the road and you say, man, what if we had that game back or in the playoffs? That's what you're going to be saying at the end of that game. So, but those are just a couple of the games that intrigued me. Cleveland beating Jacksonville, I thought was big for Cleveland because after getting annihilated and the doors blown off by the Cowboys, to come back and basically score the same amount of points and win the football game shows you how much their defense can do. And their defense was pretty good in this game, which leads us to the matchup they have next week, which is, let's talk about, they're going to play the Giants in Cleveland. But let's get to the Giants. And this will kind of sum up the thing. They suck. The New York Giants fucking suck. Okay? They suck. They're a bad football team. They're bad all around. Their head coach is bad. Their quarterback's bad. Their defense is bad. Their GM is bad. It's just a complete dumpster fire over at the Giants. And this was a game they should have won. I didn't pick them to win because of many different factors, which will come into play. But I didn't expect them to be, I didn't expect them to lose to Minnesota, and now they're 0-2. And we could basically put a good nightcap on that the season because there's no hope walking to that locker room to save them. Their defense is not changing anytime soon. And if they become over-aggressive, it's going to expose their back end. They've let two quarterbacks, two guys that have been, one's rookie and one's supposed to be ass. They let Sam Darnold go 12 for 12, and they let Jaden Daniels go 10 for 10. That's 22 passes in a row to start the season that they've let these guys dink and dunk, and they're just taking what the defense is giving them. It's not, everyone's like, well, they're not really doing much. They're taking what the defense is giving them, and they're driving downfield, expecting you to make a mistake. But if you can't stop the run, it don't even matter. The Giants gave up over 100 yards to the Vikings. They gave up over 200 yards to the Commanders rushing the football. And let's be honest, the team next week, the Browns, are not going to hold back. They're going to run the football as well, play defense. They have some offensive line woes, but they came through this week. Deshaun Watson, while he wasn't spectacular, did enough to, get him the job. I mean, you could say on offense, they didn't really do much. They force-fed the ball to Malik Nabers, who, by the way, is a stud, and you knew was going to be a stud. And with the actual offensive scheme that will work, he'll be a decent player. I didn't think Daniel Jones' performance was great. I didn't think it was that bad. I thought it was about average, to be honest with you. People are like, oh, well, he didn't get outplayed by the rookie. He got outplayed by the rookie. The rookie had more yardage. The rookie had more attempts. The rookie kept his team in more exciting games. He brought him in the red zone every time. They didn't score a touchdown because the offense didn't seem to want to throw the ball downfield. But 138 of Daniel Jones' 178 yards came by Malik Nabers. So it's not like he had a spectacular day. He had two bad throws, very bad throws, actually. The one against with Darius Slayton in the end zone, you need to make that throw. You need to not let that guy. Slayton's got it for all intents and purposes. Slayton got to catch it. But come on, put it in his breadbasket so it's not hard. That's a 1-2 point conversion. The other 2 point conversion, you got an interception on. And then the other attempt, they missed the field goal attempt. So, because their kicker was had a hamstring, who, by the way, Brian Dable, you're going to be fired for that transgression alone. You knew your kicker had a groin. You decided, just like you did the other week with Gunnar Olszewski, you said, no, he's good to play. Let's put him out there. Didn't sign anybody, didn't take the foresight to see, well, what if this guy gets injured or pulls his hamstring or pulls his groin even more? No foresight. You just let him out there. And you had a kicker on the roster. That's the worst part. You had a kicker on the roster. It's not like you didn't have a kicker on the roster. If you didn't have a kicker on the roster or nothing, I said, fine, whatever. And your punter sucks because he can't do place kicking as well. It's not necessarily his job, but I've seen punters come in and save the day. You couldn't even do that. Your kicker, your punter was also injured, and he couldn't fucking kick a field goal to save his life. So strategically, you had to go for two and put your team in a compromising position because they couldn't score. And by the way, the Commanders' defense isn't that great, but somehow gave up only 18 points. And not only that, you gave up two back-to-back drives in the fourth quarter. Right, you're up 18-0. They tie the game. You go down to get the ball back after they have tied the game on you. After you go up 18-15, they go down and tie the game. You come back down the field, tie the game. Neighbors has a drop. We're blaming Neighbors on the drop. It was a concentration drop. He was tired. He was probably like trying to make this play, and a lot of emotions, and the ball just dropped off his hands. It happens in games. That's what's going to happen. Big moments like that happen, right? And he dropped the ball. And it would have been a heroic effort by the quarterback and everything like that, but it didn't. It wasn't meant to be. The football gods didn't want to put that out there. And our star player did what star players do sometimes. Saquon Barkley occasionally fumbles. Malik Neighbors drops a pass at a critical moment, and you can't rely on that. There's other factors in the game that could have allowed them to win. They didn't. And it's sad. And right now the ship is failing. But like I said, the kicker that was on the roster, you should have done. Somebody should have came down and said, hey. And apparently you're not only have 53 guys on the roster, so you would think you would bring somebody in. And you watch, this week they're going to bring a kicker in. I guarantee you, they're going to sign that kicker from the practice squad because they already look like an idiot. But they're going to have another problem when they get the doors blown off on Sunday in Cleveland. Because Cleveland now has a new life. They have new life. And they're seeing what the Commanders did and that piss poor defense. And they're going to look at what they did against a decent team in the Jaguars. And they're going to say, well, we can rush for 200 yards. We don't need our quarterback to be spectacular. We'll let him take what he can get. And then you got to worry about the other side. Our quarterback who looked great against a bad defense. He looked average. Like that, a game like that, here's why. People are going to, I'm not trying to blame Daniel, but if you're a quarterback like that, you put the team in a good spot to win. But how come I felt that Jayden Daniels had a better game? Like that guy had 226 yards. He carved up our defense. And yet they didn't really carve up the Commanders' defense. They just kind of force-fed it to one guy. Like, where's Jalen Hyatt? You had Darius Slayton dropping passes all over the place. Can he get got by? See you. I'm sorry. Goodbye. See you later. Right? Malik Neighbors is getting run rugshot. So it's a bad situation in New York. Not going to get any better. You see a man on the podium who's slowly starting to unravel. The GM Joe Shade miscalculated, and this is where we're at right now. And look, I said this team will be 7 wins. I don't even know if they're going to get that. And all those people who say, oh, we're going to win this many wins, 11, 10, 13, whatever. You need to do a rally check and just look at the team for what it is. It's garbage. It's rotten at the core. It's rotten at the head. And all three guys got to go. Shane, Dable, Jones. Get them out the door. Change the whole culture. You may have to trade some people. Don't be afraid to trade. Don't be afraid to grab assets because that's what you're going to need to do next year. I don't want to hear if they're a top 10, oh, we're going to trade out and get a quarterback in 2026. No. If they happen to be in a position to pick a quarterback this year, you fucking do it. And you don't worry about next year's class or the class after that or the class after that because that's not how you draft. You know who drafts like that? Fans draft like that because we have the information, as do they, to who's coming out. But you never know who's going to stay an extra year of eligibility, who's going to do this, who's going to do that. Arch Manning said he may not come out until 2027. So what the fuck are you going to do? Wait till 2027? John Barry going to wait that long? And if you are, let's say the coaches come in this year, right, at the end of the 2025 off season, right? How do you know that those guys are going to make it that far? That's what I want to know. How do you know they're going to make it that far? What if they don't? What if they don't make it to 2027? There's a new regime here. You see what I'm saying? So let the new regime, whoever that may be, pick their guy and stay out of their way. Give them the 3 years to put their team together, and or at least 4 years this time because they have a rookie contract. Let them see after 4 years. If the 4 years is not working out, well, you'll know in 2. But if you don't see progress steady, and this is on the GM and the coach, who are you bringing in to help guide my quarterback? You know, the people don't realize that Tom Coughlin brought in Chris Palmer to help out with Eli Manning and other things like that. You know, so you need that. That helps. But thanks for listening to the Hurry Up. I'm your host, Adam. See you next time.